I mean, I'm sure I have actually recorded something to this effect, but for the record, let's just say, in the film Candyman, the baddie is sort of summoned by saying his name 3 times, and of course this is a threat for the audience. So if you look at Haidt's work, he says, well, if you're talking about subjects that are unpleasant, warning your audience that you're going to say something unpleasant is actually a bad strategy, because they prepare themselves, and I forget the strategy he gives, but you can give... In the pre-French Revolution, the king's, while he's young, gets into a fight or something, and his childhood friend gets hung, drawn and quartered effectively. It's not a particularly nice story, but you don't need to prepare somebody for it. You tell them about the French Revolution. That's interesting, and the gory bits are just part of the story, and people can say or ooh, whatever they like, but the warning is just redundant and makes things worse. It's just pointless. But in terms of saying things 3 times, I've just lost my train of thought because it's so revolting. Oh God, it's out of my mind. Bear with me for a second. Yeah, there we go. The name escaped me because it was so disgusting and so forgettable. So we'll say it 3 times. So prepare yourselves at home. Chris Naylor. So it wasn't that bad, was it? You probably got through that without throwing up or having a screaming fit or fainting. But we'd like to actually speak to this guy, because he came into the city of Birmingham, destroyed it, then fucked off. God knows how much money he took for destroying the city in wartime conditions, making also like a kind of moronic statement, setting up a Maoist wave and struggle sessioning my colleagues, hiring a woman who was totally unemployable, and promoting the sort of literature which would not be banned in a British school, but you'd have to have someone like me to teach in a liberal ethics comparative religion sense to teach people that it's a hostile act. The sort of literature in a British public body associated with a woman who was involved in a bank heist and blowing the head off a judge in America. We were supposed to take moral lessons from in Bumpster Council's court service, all the other derangements. This is not me saying this, of course. Don't Divide Us is putting out reports that I contributed to, which escalated into riot reports, and the managing director is still playing about in this absurd postmodernist fashion, because whoever is instructing the West Midlands Police is open to question. So current head of West Midlands Police buggers off, can't do the job. New one is in, can't do the job either. But who's advising these guys? So who's the political advisor? Well, by definition it must belong to Max Caller, so why could we not speak to this stupid woman when we're in the court service? Who is she? Where is she? Why was she not engaging with us? So if you're having a political advisor coming from central government and the people in the legal profession are outside of your remit, then what are you doing? What are you doing? Come on. The British state can't function in this way. So it has escalated to, well, the British state can't certify the safety of its own court officers. Its own court officers can quite clearly follow the EQA because they've been doing it for 17 years, but they're saying, well, the EQA is not only bad legislation, it's been totally subverted and is now literally killing us and mutilating our children and worse. It needs to be scrapped quite urgently. Okay, I agree with my colleagues, I was behind on that one. But given that their arguments are kind of out of date, that we're a bit slow when the argument is, well, if you can't physically defend yourself in Birmingham, then you're shit out of luck. There are no police, and we've agreed this now at the Hobbesian breakdown of the society conference over the weekend. So there's the head of Debs in terms of professional development option. But since we can't find these people via satellite technology, right? So camera can link to these women. Where are they? 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 So your peers, including people in the parachute regiment, are going into a conference hall saying, well, we're concerned about the loss of authority of the state, and who turns up to this thing? Right? Who? This is voluntary. 400 quid for that'll include a hotel room for your money. So what were you doing over the weekend that was better than that? These women are fucking about, playing around with their computers, not doing their jobs and trying to pocket public money because it's coming in as part of John Cotter's patronage schemes, and what should be happening is the money spigot dries up and these women go into a box somewhere after police intervention is had. We can't do that at this point because the bureaucrats are so dishonest, they're just covering each other's arses in a completely illegitimate way. This is why the public inquiry is not going back to Birmingham straight away, which it clearly should be. This is a hive of commie power, the Islamo-commie, if you like, power base is there. It is Islamo-Hegelian, by the way, not Islamo-commie. But people like John Cotton should be under caution as soon as he's out of power for what he was doing during the past 6 years or so. Independent from me, so the police should be saying, if the police don't want the kind of stuff of tainting evidence, they should be intervening. So I'm not having to defend myself with an FPV drone, a rifle and a sword, and we can actually get adults in the British state to actually engage properly. But in the absence of a solicitor who would normally do these things, members of the British legal profession are having to go back to these sort of baby steps. Here's the basis of civilization is security conversations. Then maybe you idiots can actually intervene in some reasonable manner. So in fact, that is, isn't it? The EHRC is saying, well, because this guy is functional enough to be sitting on a bench, therefore he can, there's no problem. But you can't navigate society because none of my statements can be transferred into a document by another human being. Therefore, you can't navigate the legal process in any way because there's no bureaucrat that's compliant, and the bureaucrat needs to be linking you with a professional representative who can get things through the system. But they're refusing because of the North Koreanisation of the city. So, there's your inference. But if you're saying this is incorrect again, just do the work yourself. Go into a Birmingham building, so it'll look like an office building, and it's sort of the modern box set of these ugly, disinviting buildings. But if you think about this thing as a castle, it's just at the top of the castle. You want to go in and kill the guy at the top. He's not a king. It's a fat, ugly queen sitting there sneering, surrounded by her courtiers, and you're sitting in the meeting room thinking this woman has any kind of legitimacy. But if you think about these kind of things in Hobbes in this sense, she doesn't, does she? Quite clearly. Because if she did, then the current political leadership could be having conversations with me to resolve these matters in a sensible way. But because they can't do it after the transfer of power and Cotton fucking off, then it shows the problem, doesn't it? I'm too dangerous to appear on a video link, so I'm too terrifying. I don't know if I'm compared to this Scottish character here. I'm too revolting to look at. But they've been caught with their trousers down. These dumb lies just don't work. They're flailing around trying to find an explanation, finding that their strategy doesn't work. So at the bottom, I'm disgusting because I'm sitting on a park bench with a medical cannabis prescription. At the top, I'm disgusting because we're talking to the counter-revolution people and talking about cutting people's heads off. And all of this is, by the way, is totally illegal in terms of public policy put out by our political leadership, who says, just be sensible. And we say, okay, fine. The Self-Defence Party don't have a problem with FPV drones as rifles. Any bloke in Scotland who isn't a criminal should be able to have one. The Edinburgh Army, you can walk in there, pick up swords and axes, show your driver's licence. As long as you're sane and sober, they're happy. You're not waving them around. The Anglos have the rifle tradition, so they can still go and buy a gun, get a gun licence, buy a gun cabinet and secure it. We still have that kind of stuff. So, rifle range to the west. So if you're a cretinous bureaucrat who's paid by the state to engage in these moronic theatre performances, and your court staff are catching you and then laughing at you via satellite, your career's done, isn't it? How is this woman getting up tomorrow, sitting in front of her computer, when we're just tearing her arse out from space daily? Once you're in the hole, you can keep going if nobody intervenes. There's a police station down the corner and they seem to be perfectly happy, and we've been in to say, do you want to actually have a conversation with police and solicitors, and they're saying no, we can't do that. So there we go, there's my professional responsibility covered. We've covered Arthur's seat and security around that thing, so we're now just waiting, are we? You know, that they had various ultimatums. One was London, the other one was turning up to the Hobbs conference. So if you didn't turn up over the weekend, what is your excuse? You know, you're supposedly a serious person, a serious organisation. You know, you're running whatever your British organisation is. You know, seriously well. You were there then, weren't you? I mean, clearly you were there. You're having a nice casual chat with some of the panellists, listening to that kind of stuff, because your head's to the ground, isn't it? Your ear to the ground, sorry. So, yeah, and this is what snaps you back to reality, thinking about future generations. So for future generations, we're going to play a murder mystery game. So I haven't actually, to be perfectly honest, I haven't killed the managing director. I didn't actually stab her in the throat and shoot her in the head. These are metaphors. We just can't find the woman. When we say she's disappeared, like the Poochie in The Simpsons, it is like Beam Me Up Scotty. She's just vanished, and I'm kicking the paw in the face on her behalf. If you want me to drag you out of a property via police because you're poor and frightened in the cold because we have the authority of the state, I'll do that all day for money, because we have been. But when we say we can't do that legally because of her action, this is not my opinion. This is not a mere thing, an ephemera floating through my head. This is because of this woman's idiotic statements and her behaviour. How do we do enforcement? You can have my job for whatever they're paying if you want it, if you think you can legally do it, but as soon as you press the button on your computer which says attack this guy on behalf of the state, I pop up by a computer saying, well, have you made your decision, sir? How is that ever legitimate? How is this person supposed to get back off the street given the behaviour of the local authority? How is that possible? Have you got an answer? Therefore you can't do the job. So the value of the job increases, doesn't it? So when my colleagues say value of a philosophy degree is exponential, this is why. You can scream in people's face and tell them to get the fuck out, and they flee from officers, and your pay goes up. So the pay for that job is now running a compliance team. So it's in Birmingham. Darren Canning saying 5 billion quid local authority. So gimme. But given that you can only do the job in the first place by not caring about money, you couldn't pay me enough to not just do the job illegally. I don't want money, I just want to not kill the poor. Can we arrange that, please? Can we stop attacking children? That kind of conversation. So if the conversation is no, sir, your compliance team will sit by the organ harvesting stand in Edinburgh trying to have a chat with your managing director. We've tried to have a chat at the bridge with the organ museum. We've got those organs legally. Cancerous cells, stab wounds, all lovely stuff. If you want to feel at home like you feel in Birmingham, dead rats, all kind of lovely stuff. Sorry, I think I don't want to rant about Birmingham. It may upset passers-by. You have to talk about Birmingham in hushed tones, but we'll send this off anyway for the managing director. Anyone can find this bitch, just get her sent to her own court staff. Nobody's going to collect money on that woman's behalf. We're done with these sort of theatrical theatre performances. This guy for me is actually generally scary. So the theatre performance of a large Scottish man screaming at me is, because it's a theatre performance, you don't know how it's going to end, but if you're playing it straight, that's kind of easier. But because I know this woman is disgusting, I can just tear her face off and she can't do anything. Whereas this guy, I've got to be nice to him.